Hello everyone, Jesse Webb, Traders Pro. Market conditions remain mildly bullish. We'll look at that chart here in just a minute. First chart I wanted to go over is the current price of crude oil. This is the ETF that tracks crude oil, which is symbol USO. And you can see this lower low and this current recent high, and that we're continuing and bouncing in that upper momentum zone, and so we could see oil continue to have this upward trend. As we know that, we can keep our eye a little bit closer on some of the oil stocks that are showing up in the muscle stocks group and in the new buy group that are also starting to trend. Just something of note to be able to start out where oil is at currently. We'll also look at our long-term signal. We still continue to retrace right here as far as the overall market conditions, but we are having a nice little rally here in the last few days. Mildly bullish. That momentum just has not ticked quite up yet to that upper range. That'll turn that to bullish when that does happen, and that could happen really in a day or two if we see any support or continued upside on the overall S&P 500 primarily. Market breadth also now back in that middle range, and then sentiment working its way back up a little bit higher right there. If we take a look at buy-sell ratio, our buy-sell ratio is working its way back together, but we still have that bearish momentum happening. And but again, they are working its back together again. We'll see if we get a little bit more volatility. Certainly could have another pullback around these areas, and we had just a straight shot directly off these lows and continuing toward that overall upside. If we look at S&P 500, a little bit of resistance right there at this location. We've got a resistance area coming in now. So if we get a little bit of a pullback, find some support, and then continue that overall move higher, that would be the current path of least resistance. But we may see, depending on the weekend and news items and lots of different factors, obviously we could see some kind of a pause or a retracement right here. But it's getting more and more bullish as we now create some additional support locations on the market's S&P 500. If we take a look at the sectors, we have things are moving back. We've got we had a bunch of them in that sell down trend, now back into that hold range, and a few ticking back to the upside. Obviously, energy is going to be in that upper range. IYE is the ETF for that. Okay, any of these commodities that we're looking at, we always look at the ETF so that if you want to actually trade that, then that's the actual symbol that you could utilize for energy ETF. That's going to get you on the long side of energy stocks. And if you want more information on what are the components to that ETF, you could just simply go out and click on one of these links and do a little bit more research on some of those ETFs and the actual components and the stocks that they're holding. But we are seeing some positivity there, and also on tech. Tech has had a big, nice move. In fact, if we look at these the indexes, you've got leading indexes, which is now the NASDAQ 100 as far as rank. And it's currently got a nice buy-sell ratio, almost 2-to-1. So we're seeing 29 stocks in that overall group. And NVIDIA, Netflix, Broadcom, Applied Materials, some of the common names there. Cisco continuing to do well. Those are the top stocks in the NASDAQ 100. If we take a look at, in fact, let's look at new ETFs. We know that the short, the VIX. For that ETF, and there are a few others that are in there related to volatility. The new buy range, we're seeing technology. We're starting to see long ETFs again popping up in this group versus those short and double short inverse ETFs, which is also a little bit more of a bullish sign here. If we look at the current new buy list, let's look through those top few. I saw one or two in there that were interesting today. Not a real solid confirmation on this stock, ROIV, but it is in that upper momentum zone, and it is at a potential for a breakout location. If we could get a close up above that bar or up above that resistance area, you could see some continued momentum on that stock. Let's look at, let me just refresh this so we've got a clean look. ROIV, IMVT, Same story there, a little bit volatile stock. Biotech, starting to see some biotech stocks creep back in there. EVLV, $6 stock. Not a bad looking pattern right there. Had a big move higher, has retraced all of that, but is still finding some support and now maybe moving higher out of that support base. TDW, again, starting to see some oil related stocks. You'll notice that these patterns look very similar to that USO chart, which is not an uncommon thing for the stocks to actually look like the oil charts as well. And we're seeing some electronic and tech stocks also jumping back in that list. QD, a finance stock, ADR, OLMA, medical biotech. So take a closer look through that group of stocks today. That'll do it for today's update. And everyone have a fantastic day today.